Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back. So, guys, if you remember, as part of our previous session, right, we have seen the various types of locators that Playwright is offering. Right. As part of the today's session, we are going to talk more about this CSS locators. So what I'm going to do right now is let me navigate to this Playwright official documentation that we were using from the last couple of days. So I was searching for the locators. So whenever I was searching for the locators, see, this is the locators and there is a other locators. I just opened this other locators for now. Okay, if you look at their details, whatever they have provided with respect to other locators, in addition to the recommended locators like by role and get by text, Playwright is supporting a variety of other types of locators that we are going to study as part of this particular session. And one among that particular one is a CSS selector. So not only the previous session locators that we have studied, and a Playwright is also offering this type of a locator. But they have given a disclaimer here stating that we recommend prioritizing the user visible locators that we have seen as part of the previous sessions. Okay, instead of using CSS. Okay, so though the Playwright official documentation is giving a feature as a CSS locator, but they are clearly calling out that, buddy, go ahead and use with the default user visible locators. If it is not possible to identify that, then only come to this particular Playwright CSS or any kind of an XPath that we are going to study as part of the next session. Okay, by default, your Playwright is going to support CSS in a two ways. The first one is directly using a CSS, and the second one is using a custom pseudo classes like a visible, has a text, has, a is, and many more. These are the various options are there. Okay, fine. So we will see about one about these options moving further. So what I'm gonna do right now here is example on a CSS selector. I just created a spec file wherein which I just created a test in it, nothing more than that. Now what I'm gonna do right now here is on this particular Swag Labs, I know that the username field is having an input tag. So directly I wanna perform a click operation on that particular input. So where in which we are going to use the CSS equal to input dot a click. Let us see. Let me copy this particular line, come back here, put it here. Instead of a button, I'm changing it to input. Okay. So here CSS equal to this is the chunk that I have done right now. Okay. Perfectly. All right. So let me pull my terminal here. Okay, where is this particular chunk? Okay, so here is the thing. Okay, in the terminal. Okay, in the terminal, let us change my file name to. So what is this particular file name? So CSS locator dot spec dot ts. I just want to execute it in an headed mode. Let me run it. So I don't have a close, guys. I don't have a close. Basically it just launched it and it thrown an error message stating that, buddy, I'm having an issue with the click. The reason here is strict mode violation. The reason here is with this particular locator, I was able to identify three elements. The first element is an ID username field. The next element is a password field and the next element is a login button. I was able to identify three different elements with which I was unable to perform this operation. Okay, perfectly all right. Let me close this report. Okay, shut this up. Okay, perfectly all right. So this is good. So now what I'm doing here is the same scenario. I'm changing my makemytrip.com. Okay, I'm changing it to makemytrip.com. On this makemytrip.com, let us search if at all any buttons are there. Okay, I was just searching for buttons. So here, if you look at this particular first button, it's a flight tracker. That's what the first button it's prompting. Okay, the first button it's showing up as part of the HTML here is a flight tracker. Perfect. So here, instead of this one, I'm trying to click on this particular button as well. Okay, I was just trying to click on this particular button. Let me load the terminal and let me rerun the same code again. Okay, it's trying to run the same program again. It's trying to open the makemytrip.com and again it got a closed and it is stating that strict mode violation. So with this, what we have observed is ideally when we are getting this strict mode violation exception, whenever with the defined locator, if there are multiple elements are there in such a cases, you are facing this particular issue. Perfectly all right. So what I'm gonna do right now here is as per this documentation. So the first one here is a visible. See guys, like the previous session, how I have a consolidated all the information present in this official website to my PPT. The same way here also I have a consolidated all these, customized classes here in my document. So the first one here is a visible. It will identify the matching elements that are visible on the web page. So there is a possibility for that the element might may not be visible. So that's the reason here I'm saying it as a visible. Okay, that's it. So here visible. And if you look at the documentation also, they have a given it as a visible itself. Okay, perfectly all right. So what does it means on this particular application? Whichever this button is there, whichever the visible button is there, perform a click operation on it. Okay, perform a click operation on it. Now let me try to rerun the command from the terminal. Okay, so I'm just trying to rerun this program. Okay, let us look at it this time also. Okay, it got executed. Okay, it got executed and now it got a fail. And this time it is stating that, buddy, I was able to identify 10 elements. If you look at the first element that it is being populated, which is a flight tracker, that's the desired one. So the point here is with the desired selector, if there are a multiple elements are there. So let me add a comment here. With the given locator, if there are a multiple elements are there, then we can use below three methods or we can use any one of those three methods. The first one here is whenever I type it as a first, my copilot is prompting me the suggestions. Of course, that's the first one. I'm accepting it. The first one. So this is stating that it will select the first element from the list of elements. Of course, the second method is the last method. It will select the last element from the list. And the third method is the nth method basically, for which you will be passing down the index. Index 0 means it's gonna be the first value. Index 1 is gonna be the second value. Index 2, it's gonna be the third value. And ideally, the index starts from 0 itself. That's it. So the first method itself is it's gonna identify the first element from the list. Last, it's gonna identify the last element. Nth, it's gonna be based on the index. If you look at this particular report, it is stating that there are 10 different elements. So the first element is a flight tracker and the last element is something like a button, a next button. See here, this is a next button. Okay, that's fine. So with that, in this particular example, I'm just using dot first. Okay, I was just using dot first dot a click. Perfectly all right. So as per this particular syntax, first itself means it's gonna point out that a flight tracker. Okay, let me go back. Let me close this pop-up. I don't have a logic to close that pop-up. See, the flight tracker got a click. So this is the screen that it got a populated. To understand the same, whether it is clicking on a actual flight tracker or not. So I'm clicking on this flight tracker manually. So this is what the check flight status is. So the same screen is populated by my program. Perfectly all right. That's really good. Let's come back here. Instead of a first, let me change it to last. Okay, let me change it to last. Let me run this particular program. And if you go back here, let me close this one manually. And the next arrow should be clicked. See, the options got a changed. Perfectly all right. And here, instead of a last and a first, there is a one more option, which is an nth, okay, which is of an nth, and for which my copilot is prompting. Whenever you are using an nth, you need to specify the index. So here, I'm specifying my index as 3. Okay, guys, I was just specifying my index as a 3. So what it's gonna happen right now, it is trying to identify the buttons that are visible in the web page, which is of a third index. So third itself means my fourth object. It's gonna perform a click operation. So let me try to run this program and check it out here. Let me close this pop-up and it's performing the click operation. The desired operation is being performed. So this is the way how exactly we can use this particular CSS selector and with the visible option. Okay, let's go to the other locators documentation in which we have a used visible. And if you scroll down further, they have a given has a text. Okay, they have a given has a text. So, buddy, you can go with a visible, not only with an index, you can also use a has a text. If you look at this particular has a text, what they are saying is matches an element containing the specified text. You will be giving a particular text. It will check whether that particular text is there or not. But here, the key thing that it's gonna consider here is it is a case insensitive. So which means if you wanna click on a flight tracker, right? If you wanna click on a flight tracker, so F is in an uppercase and tracker tree is in a lowercase. Even if you give everything in a lowercase, everything in an uppercase, it will perform that particular operation. That itself is a case insensitive. And it trims the spaces. If you give a spaces ahead or at the end, even it will trim the spaces, and it also searches for the substrings. Okay, perfectly all right. So let's come back to this particular code. Let me comment out this particular line. Okay, let me put this line here again, and this time, what I'm gonna do right now, the buttons which is visible and this has a text would be specified within this particular locator itself. Okay, within this particular locator itself, a dot a click. Okay, that's fine. So for this has text, if you look at this particular documentation, you need to specify the tag name also. You need to specify the tag name. Perfect. So here, I just want to go with my flight tracker. Inspect the flight tracker. So the flight tracker itself is a text and it is having a font. So let's come back here. Font. Okay, so if you look at this particular syntax of the has text, so this is the tag name colon has a text and the desired text should be specified. So font. Okay, so font, and you need to specify the colon has a text, and my desired text should be specified in the double quote, close the brackets. Perfectly all right. So what is my desired text here? My desired text is a flight tracker. I was just specifying my flight tracker for this. Okay, perfectly all right. So this is the way how I have a given a has a text. Okay, this is the way how I have a given a has a text. So let me try to run this particular command. Okay, let me try to run this particular command and check it out whether it is performing that particular operations or not. So I just closed this pop-up. See here, it should click on that particular flight tracker. Okay, so what happened? One second. So the script itself is a past. Okay, the script itself is a past. Perfectly all right. So if you want to check out whether it is performing this particular operations or not, await pays a dot a pass. I was just giving this particular pass here. Okay, now here, let me run this particular program again. Okay, let me run this particular program again. As we all know that whenever you use a pass, right? So the playwright inspector will be populated. So now let me kill this particular one. And now, okay, let me try to execute this system. So it will try to identify the desired object. See here, the flight tracker is, see my control here is in this particular one, which is having this has text, and it is identifying that particular object. Okay, it is identifying that particular object. Perfectly all right. Let us continue that execution so that it perform the termination operation. Perfectly all right. Good. So what I'm gonna do right now is copy this has a text again, put it below, and this time I'm changing it to flight tracker in a lowercase. So as per this particular has a text, it will be identifying that particular text irrespective of the case, right? So to cross check, I just given my content in a lowercase. And let me try to run this command again. Okay, I'm trying to execute this particular command again. So, my inspector got a populated. I'm just closing this particular pop-up manually. So, guys, you may ask a question, Surendra, why are you closing that pop-up manually? See, our objective is to study about this particular locator. So, we haven't performed any further operations in dealing with the buttons. We just created a basic program, right? That's the reason. In the upcoming sessions, we will take the same makemytrip.com, we will close it, or we will perform the operations on that pop-up as well. But for now, I was just closing it. So now let me pull this inspector to this particular side and let me press an F6. See, even still, though my content is in a lowercase, I was still able to identify that particular operation and I was able to perform that particular operation. Okay, so this is the way how exactly we can use this particular has a text. Okay, this is the way how exactly we can use this particular has a text. Perfectly all right. And then the next command that we have is a text is. So text is which is used to verify the exact text. And this is a case sensitive. Okay, this is a case sensitive. So text is. So if at all we are using this text is means the same text should be there on that browser. Okay, so let me copy this particular one. Let me put it in a new line. And here I was just specifying it as text is. Okay, I was just specifying it as a text is. So the text is trying to identify the exact text, but the exact text is not this one. It should be F is in an uppercase and T is in an uppercase. So let me try to rerun it and just check it out how it's gonna happen. Okay, so before that, let me close this pop-up and let's come back. And now let us try to press a step over and it's not identifying this particular one and it will throw an exception for us. That's a known issue. Okay, that's a known issue. Let's quit this execution and now here change the flight tracker to F and a T tracker in an uppercase. Now, let me rerun the same program again. So if you observe this time, let me close this pop-up and pull this inspector to this right hand side and here step over and this time it is identifying that. So the basic thing here that you need to consider is whenever you want to identify the exact text, then in such a cases go with the text is. So whenever you want to identify a text with respect to the case insensitive, in such cases you can go with a has text, and a visible is a quite common thing which will be checking whether that particular element is a visible or not. So guys, if you observe, we have studied about a visible, we have studied about a has text, we have studied about a text, we have studied about this particular index as well. So we need to discuss furthermore about the next option here is a text, has and a is. These are the things that we need to see with an examples right now. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Yeah, so let's look at an example on a text basically. So what I'm going to do right now is let me comment it out at this particular line that we have created. And let's look at the documentation related to text. Text is like a substring basically, and it's a case insensitive. So whatever the has a text or a text is there, copy it, put it here and here I was just putting it as a text. Okay, I'm just giving it as a text basically. Perfectly all right. Let me try to run this program. Okay, let me try to run this particular program. So yeah, let me try to run it and just check it out how it's gonna perform these operations. Close this and see here the action got a performed and it terminated the browser too. Perfectly all right. So the text itself means it's a substring and it's performing that particular operation. Okay, let us look at a is basically. Is the one which will matches the element that matches any provided selector. So which means that you do have an option to provide a multiple selectors for this particular is. Okay, so let me take this line here and let me put it here. Let me close this. And here, as part of this particular one, I just want to show you an example on a is. So here, let me delete the whole content. Okay, let me delete the whole content. And this is gonna be an is. I just wanna show an example on a is. So as part of this particular is, I'm saying that my text, okay, my text, it's gonna be a flight tracker. Okay, I just want to handle it a flight tracker. For now, I was just giving only one text. So, any here, you know that you can specify a comma and you can give a multiple text. But for now, I was just giving only one text. And for this particular text, I'm adding a font ahead. Okay, now let me add a pause here. Await page dot pass. I just deleted sometime before and I'm adding it right now. And let me run this particular program. Okay, let me run this particular program and check it out. So here, let me close this one and let's come back here and let us press the step over. See, basically, this is highlighting the flight tracker. That's fine, perfectly all right. But as per that particular, okay, as per that particular definition, you can give a multiple locators. So here, what I'm gonna do right now, here, comma. Okay, I'm just specifying a comma here, and maybe I'm giving a div tag. Okay, I'm giving a div tag and it again has a text. Okay, a div tag and it again has a text as a Surendra. So I know definitely Surendra is not there. So what does it means? I am giving is this one or this one. Basically, I was just specifying these are two things. Let me try to run this particular program. Okay, let me try to run this particular program. Close this pop-up, pull this particular inspector session to the right and let me check it out. See here, either of these two things basically. I have this particular flight tracker and Surendra is not there on the web page. That's the reason it's identifying the flight tracker and it's performing the further operations. Fine. For suppose, let me look at this particular make my trip login. And what is this particular login does has? Let's have a look into that. The create account, it's having a span. Okay, so here I'm changing it to span and here create account. Okay, I'm just changing it to span and a create account. Wantedly, I have given this. Okay, let me run it. Let me go back here. Let me cross check what it's gonna perform this particular operation. So here, let me pull this particular inspector and press F6. So here, still it's picking up the flight tracker and it's performing the further operations. Ideally, what it will happen is whenever there are a multiple elements, right? If it is able to identify this element and this element, then it's gonna throw us an exception. I'm returning a list. What exactly you wanna do? In such cases, you will be using a first or a last or a nth index along with that in order to perform this particular operation. Okay, in order to perform this particular operation. Perfectly all right. And then the next point here that we need to consider is a has. So if you look at it, the last option that you have here is a has basically. This matches the element. Okay. Ideally, has is gonna matches the element based on the provided selector. Okay, whatever the provided selector is there, based on that provided selector, it will try to identify that. See, basically, so it is a button. I know this is a button. If you drill down that particular button, so this is a div which is having this particular class. So let me try to write down in this particular way div and a class. Okay, so here, okay, let me delete this particular whole line. Await, okay, await page dot locator. Okay, await page dot locator, and I know this is a button which has a div inside that, and that div should have this particular class. Okay, dot, that's the class, and here you need to use a click operation on it. That's it. I just want to use a click operation on it. Perfectly all right. Let me try to run this program and check it out how this is gonna work. I just ran this particular program. Okay, let me close this and let me pull this inspector this side and press step over. Say I was able to identify that object. So this is the way how exactly we can play around with this CSS selectors. So almost we have seen all the CSS selectors, whatever they have provided as part of the other elements, guys. Okay, that's fine. So there is an XPath option also that we will be looking at as part of our next session. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.